Hi, y'all. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh, you're not connected to audio yet. Welcome, welcome, everybody. We'll give everybody just a moment to connect to audio, get settled, grab some water. See a little bouncy caterpillars happening still, so give everybody a moment. And let me get my slides ready.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Oh, no.
Am I hiding your screen, Sally?
Yes, I'm trying to figure out how I get it back
Oh,
because I have to
what?
read something. Hold on, I know how to do it. I'm gonna go get my iPad.
No worries. We'll give folks just another minute or two to trickle in. We are not in any. It's almost summer, right? We're just gonna hang out. Let people in the room. Let people get connected to audio. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here with us for our last professional development session of the school year. I cannot believe that we are already done. It's been an incredible year. You've been an amazing audience, and we are super excited that we have all of the recordings of all of these amazing sessions available for everybody to. And we decided that we would end the year with a super mega treat. This feels like just like literally like the cherry on top of the amazing Sunday that has been this school year. We are hosting our body positivity panel with the National Team Board here today. And so we've got Allie and Parth and Avery here with us. Our Director of National Youth Programs, Sally Matsuishi, will be moderating our conversation today. But before we jump into the conversation, I got just a couple of housekeeping things to go over with y'all. If you are not familiar with Beyond Differences, but by this point, I know y'all are, we are on a mission to inspire students nationwide to end social isolation and create cultures of belonging. We're doing this by building a future where all youth are accepted, valued, and included, and all of our differences are celebrated. We will drop the link in the chat. You can add our calendar of belonging to your Google Calendar. With this, you can keep up with all of the things that national programs have to offer, our 3 days of action, everything that the National Youth Programs has to offer, and all of the things that we're doing with education programs like professional development. I'm joined today by Dr. Lisette Ostrander, our Director of Education Programs, who is running tech whatnots. My name is Frederick. My pronouns are they, them in English and they and a in Spanish. I'm Beyond Differences Professional Development Program Manager. And then if you are not already a member of our professional development learning community, we would love for you to join us. You can scan the QR code. We'll also drop the link in the chat for you to join us there. It's free. It's amazing. We've got educators from across the country and around the globe in the professional development learning community, and you can access the archives from all of our past years' social emotional lesson plans for our days of action. So if you did Know Your Classmates in the fall, if you did No One Eats Alone Day in February, if you just wrapped up Be Kind Online Day, and you liked all the stuff that we had to offer this year, you can go back and look at the archives of stuff that we did last year and the year before that. And there's a ton of amazing things on there. For today, we've got a couple of community agreements that I'll read through quickly that we would appreciate folks adhering to. We ask you to please be fully present, but also take care of yourself. Practice empathy and non-judgment, respect confidentiality, use I statements, take space, make space, take responsibility for impact, assume good intent and lean into discomfort with curiosity. And because we are on Zoom, please stay muted if you are not speaking. And then finally, and I know that's weird to throw this at you at the beginning of the conversation, but we do have an anonymous feedback survey that we want to make sure everybody has access to as we get started. Again, you can scan the QR code. We'll also drop the link in the chat for this, but our surveys are anonymous. We do read all of them, and we take all that feedback to make our sessions better. So with all that housekeeping out of the way, I will pass it over to Sally, and then I'll get all the links in the chat for you. Thanks, Sally.
Sally Matsuishi, I'm Director of National Youth Programs, and I'm really excited to be here today. I am somebody who lives with chronic illness. I have lupus and I have been ill today. So please excuse the fact that I'm in a darkened room and I may be a little bit slower than usual, but I appreciate it. And I wanted to thank everybody at Beyond Differences for accommodating me. What I wanted to talk about today is body positivity. This was a topic that the National Teen Board was so excited to engage when we came up with the different ideas that we were going to tackle in this year. This was one of the ones that was so just the response was overwhelming. Our Jamboards lit up. There were so many stickies. Encore had to like move them all around and make sure that all of them were seen. These community-based curriculums, which will in the future be called Youth Amplified or YA, are pretty terrific to use as educators because you can address a topic that needs addressing that you feel is important in your community, or you can introduce a new idea. And what's terrific about them is they're made by young people for young people. And we have 3 of those young people who created this curriculum in this Zoom today. So Parth is here, and Avery is here, and Allie is here. Everything starts from an origin story. And this puts students in a very real place when we start teaching. So I wanted to start this session differently, and I wanted to read the origin story that was used for the body positivity unit. And so I'm going to just read it to you now. I came into this world with legs meant to run. I loved running with my entire heart and soul. It allowed me to feel confident, content, and brought me so much happiness. As my love for running grew, so did my competitiveness of the activity. I soon joined cross-country teams, and that allowed me to find a community of people who loved running as much as I did. In middle school, these races stopped being a fun source of community, instead became an unhealthy way to compare myself to others. I started to look at the size of my legs and the size of my stomach in comparison to some of the other girls. As years passed, I started to view running as a way to get my body to look smaller. This began to make running less of a joy and more of a way to reach the unachievable body I so greatly desired. In my desire to make my body smaller, I started to feel very isolated. I felt as if no one understood the amount of pressure I was under to transform my body into a figure that pleased me. During COVID-19 pandemic, disconnected from the world, I fell into a dangerous pursuit of an ideal body. I became extraordinarily malnourished due to food restrictions and overexertion of my body. I regularly began to pass out and had to be hospitalized and put in an eating disorder-based treatment facility. After 2 months, I was discharged from the facility feeling more healthy and content, but I knew the road to recovery was a long one. As I started going to recurring therapy sessions, and after over 1.5 years without running, I finally felt up to getting back to what had once given me so much joy. Running gave me the peace I used to feel. I was doing it for myself, not the size I wanted my body to become. I slowly started to rebuild connections with things I had lost due to my eating disorder, such as taking my dog out on the morning jog and surfing. All of these activities now made me feel free and filled me with joy. As a 17-year-old about to start college, I feel excited and prepared for my future. I know that my eating disorder will forever be a part of my story, but it does not define me. I have learned many skills in my recovery that I've been able to utilize in my work with Beyond Differences. Today, I share my story and create a curriculum to build body positivity and connection. With each lesson I write, it is my hope young people will learn to love themselves, shed the judgment of others, and live authentically. This story, when I read it, gives me chills. And because of the pure connection to truth, how authentic and genuine it is, how warm it is, how well written it is. And I'm so excited that the writer of this piece and the origin story that went out across the country is here with us today. And may I introduce to you Allie. Allie, are you there? Hi. So good that
I
you
am there.
with us today. And I
Thank
wanted to
you. Yeah.
invite you, first of all, thank you for the beautiful story and that has resonated across the nation. But I wanted to ask you, what do you hope the impact of your story and this lesson plan will have?
I mainly hope that the impact of the story in this lesson plan will show peers, middle schoolers, and everyone around the country that a key aspect to recovery is communicating with other people, whether that be teachers, family members, friends, peers, just not isolating yourself in the world because recovery is a very scary thing and it is so hard and it makes it even harder to do it on your own. And what I really struggled with was I was struggling with my eating disorder during the height of the pandemic. So I was just surrounded with my mom, my dad, and my brother. I had no other community bubble to go to for support. But now that the COVID pandemic is no longer restricting people from hanging out with each other, I highly recommend and I hope people know that go to people you love and care for support because recovery is hard and it is so challenging to do by yourself. And there's such caring people around the world. And I hope that everyone can find someone to lean on in recovery.
I am so thankful for those words. And I think one of the people that can be leaned on is you by telling your
Thank
story,
you. Yeah.
developing these lessons. Educators have a touch point and a starting place to be able to talk about these things. And I'm so excited that we were able to amplify your story, specifically too, because it is so beautiful. There's
Thank
a
you.
beauty in this story. So I wanted to now, if I could show in the slideshow about what to be able to introduce the other two speakers and to show you what is available in this unit. Is that something we can do, Frederick? Can we see the?
I believe so. Are you, let's see. I feel like you should be co-host, maybe.
Encore, do we have
So you may be able to share some.
the um the slideshow that has each one of them in it?
Yes, I can pull that up for you.
Okay,
now.
and while we do that, I wanted to be able to talk next to Avery. Avery, are you out there? So Avery brought to the forefront of our body positivity curriculum some intersectional work, and this is what we found was really exciting when we started to work with the young people on the National Team Board, is that while discussing one issue, like body positivity or immigrant or refugee or queer and trans rights, we were able to see that there were intersectional spaces that were important. And Avery brought to a Jamboard a very important little sticky, which was the intersection between culture and body positivity. And Avery, can you talk to me a little bit about why you wanted to talk about that space?
Yeah, of course. Hi everybody. I'm Avery. And I think that just talking about body positivity and culture and like the intersection of that is so important because a lot of who we are and the messages that we receive about beauty image or body standard really comes from family or also just your peers, and a lot of the times that relates to your culture. And I think that specifically for my story, I definitely saw that a lot within my family, especially growing up, with things like nicknames or just little jokes about like body or also skin tone, like or hair type and things like that. And I think that by talking about the intersection of culture and body image and positivity, we're able to really expand the conversation and include a lot more people in this work, because I think that sometimes when talking about beauty standards or body image, it can be really focused on a certain type of person or like the European beauty standard. But a lot of the times, what isn't talked about is the different beauty standards that come with different cultures. Um, and like just being able to put that out there to a wide group of students really shows them that they're not alone in their experience. And if they hear like a hurtful nickname from their family, that they know that they're not the only ones experiencing that, and that even though it is out of love sometimes, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the most healthy or the best. So I think that, yeah, just talking about all of the connections between culture and identity and how we view ourselves and view our confidence is really important.
Thank you so much for that. I wanted to say that during when Avery put up her sticky note in a Jamboard session about nicknames that existed, all of a sudden, all these other little sticky notes, me too, same, all came up around hers. And it was not just from the Latinx community, it was also from the Black community and from the Indigenous community and from the Asian community, about all these different places in which there was this tension between cultural values and body positivity. And I think by putting this into this lesson, we draw in a larger crowd of students in the body positivity discussion. So, okay. So Encore, this is the slideshow. Can we start from the beginning?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what you're looking at here is a lesson, and it's available through the Curriculum Hub. And we're going to start from the very beginning. What you'll see here is how you can use this. So this is our lovely first slide. And then the second slide, you will see that we introduce these lovely people. And then we have just definitions and about why it's essential. Next slide. And then how to use it. So if you're an educator and you wanted to know how to, if you have a little bit of time, if you have a lot of time, you can use how to use our materials. Next one. What is social isolation? All of our lessons are tied to social isolation, about how these different things like body positivity, and particularly we heard it in Allie's story, how you can become very disconnected and you can become very inward in this, or in what Avery was speaking about, that there are certain things that exist in your culture and you may not know how to discuss it in a larger arena, and all of these things leading to social isolation. Next slide. We have some definitions of body positivity. So as an educator, you don't have to look them up or find them. These are ones that are used nationally. The next slide. Oops. Can we go back one? This is my favorite slide to teach from, by the way, which are direct quotes from the National Teen Board. So as educators, when you use these in the room and you bring them out, there are immediate ways that kids connect to it, things that they've heard before. So I wanted to read these and see, so I can engage you in the conversation. Every single workout series on social media, they were constantly telling me that there was something wrong with my body and there was an ideal I had to get. People made fun of my thighs. I immediately thought there was something wrong with me, rather than there was something wrong with how people see the world. My family always looked down on the darkness of my skin and prized us with whiter skin tones. I had to come to love the color of my own skin. I used to get bullied for not having a masculine body. I was 12. Now I know my body is my own and that I love what it does for me. These quotations are great jumping off points for educators to be able to engage in the conversation outside of, a definition or outside of terms. This puts it, and it gives it that very human feeling. These are also all directly from National Teen Board members. Next slide, please. Okay, so we met Allie. And then there's discussion questions. We talk about her. And then the next slide, we'd have discussion questions that are based on her story that can be used. If you have a short period of time, you can do one. If you have a whole class period, you can do all three. Next slide. Okay, so here we are with Parth. Parth, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Hi. Okay, so Parth came up with an incredible art project that actually combines disability visibility and body positivity, which I think is really exciting because, again, we're all about that intersectional space. And the reason why I also love this lesson is it is about an iconic artist who I adore, Frida Kahlo. And so, Parth, can you walk us through your art lesson?
Yeah, sure. So this art lesson kind of came together through our national team board meetings, and we obviously wanted to create an intersection between body positivity and disability visibility. And one of the largest like figures we've seen in pop culture over the years has been Frida Kahlo, as a huge advocate for body positivity and kind of redefining what we see as beautiful, and then also shedding light on disabilities that she's had throughout her life. So we thought it would be a great idea to encapsulate her life through this art project. And so the premise of this art project is just like how she was on the cover of Vogue, and she set so many firsts for being on the cover of Vogue. We have students draw themselves on the cover of Vogue and highlight kind of the things that make them different, but also the things that make them beautiful than others. And we see that like through many parts of what she put in her art. She represented her culture through her art. She represented her body and what made her different than others. And she represented these things through her art. And the art project kind of goes through that, gives some info on her life and how we can see these through her paintings, and then has students draw themselves on the cover of Vogue. And it's kind of meant to show people that every body is beautiful in their different way, and you know, just trying to find the beauty in everyone.
Terrific. I love listening to you, by the way. Okay, so let's just walk through this. It starts with a beautiful quote about Frida Kahlo, and it is one of my favorites. But I'm for issues of time, I'm going to just walk through the whole thing. And so we have a little bit here about who Frida was, and then the next one. It's also about how she was a disabled person, and we wanted to specifically put this easel that she and her friend invented that allowed her to be an artist as a disabled person. The next slide. And then we wanted to talk about how she depicted herself. People say that Frida Kahlo is the original person to glamorize the selfie. She did a lot of self-portraits, but we wanted to ask students what they saw about how Frida is glamorizing herself and her culture. Next slide. We also have her we asked students about how would you depict your world? How would you glorify the spaces and the cultures that you come from and your own beauty? Then we have this photograph because we wanted to talk about what it means to represent something, right? There's so much going on in this photograph. Frida has her hair in a traditional Mexican style. She's painting from an easel in her bed to accommodate her disability. But what I thought was most stirring is the fact that there was a little boy in this picture. How does Frida painting and being her authentic self and also having it photographed change the world for this little boy? What will this little boy think about being Mexican? What will this little boy think about what disabled people can and cannot do? What will this little boy think about what is beautiful and where talent lays? I love teaching this photograph. Educators out there, if you ever want to teach a photograph and just put this up and have kids look at it and consider it, and then use that, the idea of what will that little boy grow up believing, is an incredible place to talk about living your authentic self and what impact it has on others. I have the next slide. We also have here, again, we're talking about how she depicts herself, what is beautiful, and how daring she is in looking directly at you, how we live in our authentic selves beautifully. Next slide. Here's that iconic Vogue cover, which is terrific. By the way, I also when I teach this cover, I talk about how she's so proudly Mexican, how she's so proudly, and she dressed herself. She was very, very specific on how she wanted to be photographed. Notice that she's not dramatically posed. She is not standing around. She can't stand because of her disability. It's very difficult for her to stand, but that she loses none of that regal sense about her. And so after the whole lesson has come and we get to this last image of her on the cover of Vogue magazine, students are able to pull out elements of the intersection of culture and beauty, disability, visibility, about body positivity. And then the last piece, thank you, Parth, is if we go, you create your own magazine cover, and we make available printable a magazine cover that has prompts that you are able to picture yourself on the cover of a magazine, and show yourself in all your authentic glory. So that is the Frida Kahlo art lesson. It is fun, by the way. I have done it with young people. I have also done it with my adult friends. So teachers, if you want to bring something super cool to a staff meeting, in which you can really be in the same place as your students and try it out before you bring it to them, go and take it with you and bring all of Parth's wonderful, beautiful ideas. And before I let Parth go, I just wanted to know, why did you want to do this? What is your hope the impact this will have?
Yeah, so kind of echoing off of what Ali and Avery both said, I think personally for me, my definition of body positivity has always been kind of something that's been fit inside of a box. Like it's always been the sort of standard. And I want both educators and students to know that it doesn't have to fit some sort of box. Personally, for me, I think a lot of the things that I used to think was men don't need to worry about this or something like, or male identifying figures, this problem isn't real and it's not like something that everyone experiences, but it is. And I want, people to know that I've gone through all of this, and it's something where kind of what Ali said about there's always someone there out for you. And everyone is experiencing these things, especially when we're going through like a time like middle school where everyone's changing so dynamically and trying to figure out what makes them beautiful and what makes their bodies unique from others.
Well, Parth, I really wanted to thank you for bringing to the forefront the inclusion of all genders in the body positivity conversation. I think that was really, really important. And I also loved making this with you, just on the side note. I just really love listening to all three of you and how passionate you are about body positivity and how incredibly dedicated all of you were to bringing in multiple voices and amplifying different experiences within the body positivity conversation. And it is my hope the impact of this curriculum will be that it will resonate with young people across the nation, and that they too will be able to see themselves and bring their voices to it. So I want to shut up and let everybody, if there's anybody in this room who wants to ask a question or wants to make a comment, the three makers of this curriculum are here for you. In the meantime, before we do this, Frederick, can you tell folks where they can find this curriculum?
Yes, absolutely. So this is available on our curriculum hub. We will drop the link for that in the chat. If you have previously signed up for any of our National Days of Action, so again, that's Know Your Classmates in the fall, No One Eats Alone Day in February, or Be Kind Online Day, which just happened a couple weeks ago, you already have access to our curriculum hub, but we'll drop the link in the chat for you, even if you haven't signed up for our National Days of Action. But you should, because you get all kinds of great free stuff when you sign up for our National Days of Action. But I will drop that in the chat in just a moment, but we do want to open it up for questions. Feel free to take yourselves off mute. You can drop your questions in the chat and I will read them aloud if you don't want to unmute yourself. But while we have access to these brilliant young people and their really like touching personal stories, I want to make sure that we use our time wisely, friends.
Everybody else, these people that find silence really, really like anxiety provoking. Silence. I gotta get better at listening to silence. But maybe we covered it all and nobody has any questions. Okay. What do you think, Frederick?
Well, I mean, I've always got questions for y'all.
Okay.
I'm not gonna let this opportunity pass us by. No, and I've also had the pleasure of working with y'all on a number of different things, and so I know that y'all already have all the answers to that. So one of the things that struck me when y'all were talking is how messages about body standards and like our bodies are coming at all of us, but especially young people, from so many different directions. And so you talked about, from your family, from your culture, from your peers, from the media. There's so many different, like, I feel like we're all just being bombarded all the time by what we should be and what we should do, when really, it's such a huge spectrum of body experience across the 8 billion of us on this planet. What advice would y'all have for middle school students currently who are dealing with that, like, bombardment? Like, how do you stop the barrage of should?
That's a great question.
I could take this one. I think that one thing I've definitely had that experience in middle school where differing views were just coming at me and kind of telling me how I should look. But I think one thing that just helped me navigate all that in middle school was just putting myself first and like seeing what I appreciated and loved about my body and what made me unique and like what made me beautiful and different. Rather than listening to other people's standards, because you're always going to get the media thinking you should look different than your parents, thinking you should look different than your friends. And it's kind of that idea of like finding yourself, and it's hard in middle school, but it's something that like I think a lot of people need to shed more light on, because it's something that everybody's going through.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that in middle school, I also like struggled a lot with my body image, and I went through middle school through quarantine just like Allie. So I think that social media was like a really big part of my experience. And especially like TikTok, I would follow a lot of creators um who would post their lifestyles, like what they ate, like their workout routines, or just like photos showing off their bodies. And something that really helped me was just to unfollow people that didn't make me feel good about myself, and instead follow creators that uplifted themselves, and also people in my community or just others in general. Another thing that really helped me is that I wrote down affirmations for myself on sticky notes, and I put them up on my mirror. And that was up for like all of middle school, and I would kind of switch them out when I had something new that I was confident about. Like I'd put like "I love your smile," like talking directly to myself. Um, that really helped me out just to like even feel appreciated. And I think also like setting boundaries with people, especially like with my family. Um, I think that they didn't realize that a lot of the things that they told me were hurtful. Um, and once I actually had a conversation with them and explained to them that it like negatively impacted me, because they do love me and they just want to support me, they took that information and just like stopped. So I think that being communicative and taking care of yourself is the most important.
Avery, where were you when I was in middle school? I needed all that advice. Oh my gosh. I only just got my family to stop calling me Maru Maru. Maru Maru in Japanese means round round. And it's like, and it has hurt me my entire life. But only recently had be like, hey, maybe we can not do that. Maybe we can call me something. And then you know what? I had like a 5-minute conversation with it, and it stopped. And I thought, oh my God, had I done that, 40 years ago, probably been much better, but I didn't know. Thank you for letting people know that that's something that can be done, and it actually has a positive outcome. Okay, I'll stop talking. Allie, do you have something? How do you stop the barrage?
Yeah, all I would probably add on to Avery, just be able to set your own limits. For me, what really helped is the power off button on my phone, the screen time button on my phone. So big thing for me was also social media during 2020. Couldn't go outside. I was just consumed on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all those things. And what I really found helpful is just hitting the power off button on my phone and then just tossing it across the room, because then it really took effort for me to open my phone, log in, and then open the apps. It took a lot of effort for me. So that helped with the impulse of just naturally going and looking at your phone because that can be really toxic. But because it's so modernized, it becomes very impulsive. If you can find a way to stop the impulse, then mentally it will really help you.
Wow, terrific. Great question, Frederick. Thanks for
I
asking.
No, I know. This is why I ask questions because I know y'all just have all of the most brilliant answers. And it's so, Sally, what you were saying about, and Avery, about like family nicknames, I think is really resonates for me because my dad, I'm a little older than y'all. My dad is 77. And when he was growing up in his family, he was told that he was the smart one and his brother was the talented one. And so my dad went into STEM and his brother went into the arts. And at 77, my dad still only sings in the shower, but he has a beautiful voice. And it's one of those things that just like cuts me that my grandmother, planted this seed somewhere in his boyhood. And it's still as a senior citizen, as a retiree, he still has this idea in his head. So those messages do really stick with us unless we can do that work of prying ourselves apart from them, like y'all have talked about. The
Well,
other question that I had, oh, what were you saying, Sally?
well, we're working on it. These young people are working really hard.
Yeah, no, I know y'all are. The other question that I had for you is, so our audience in with these conversations is educators, and let's say we have educators who go and they do these lessons in their classes. How do they continue to bring these conversations up with their students in a way that is like gentle and respectful? And because these lessons do come with trigger warnings because these can be really difficult topics for people. So how do educators continue these conversations with their students in a way that is productive for everybody?
Can I answer that one? And then ask the young people? Okay, shameless plug. We have things called belonging boosters that are short, easy lessons that were made by these young people and the 30 other ones that are also on the national team board that all also have incredible origin stories that can be used throughout the school year. We are about to all go to Atlanta together, the national team board, and we're going to make more. It is our goal that for next year, there will be a belonging boosters for every week of the school year. So you will always have multiple touch points to have these conversations. Also, we're going to be talking about how to make safe spaces in schools such that kids can have places to talk about things and feel as if they can bring up what they want to talk about as well. So that is my shameless plug of what can we do. There are already 33, I believe, belonging boosters that we have in the bank that you can access through the curriculum hub that are questions that just get conversations going and we can continue to talk about these things. There are ones in there that are specifically for body positivity that you will find that Ali has written. There's ones that Avery has written, and there's a Parth one in there. So you can just keep the conversation going outside of the lessons that we are offering here. And then I will leave it up to the young people to answer, how can we keep conversations going?
I think that for me in middle school, a lot of it was like peer to peer, was kind of just commenting on each other's bodies and each other's like identity in general. And I think that one thing that I would want educators to know is kind of just like how to figure out how to find that, and like seeing how often that is used in everyday conversation in middle school. I think that's one thing that like if educators want to keep like a special eye out for, is kind of that talk, like that nuanced talk about bodies that is always happening in middle school. And also kind of what Sally was saying at the beginning of this about how we had like that one question in the Jamboard and everyone started, it kind of comes down to, I think, like students have these thoughts in their heads, but they don't think that anyone else is experiencing it, so they don't contribute to the conversation or start a conversation. But asking that one simple question might be like the trigger for everyone to share their experiences, and then for everyone to know that we're all feeling the same way.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I definitely agree with that. I think that just like opening up space for conversation is so important because just like Parth said, like I think this is a conversation that a lot of students really do want to have. They just often don't feel safe to say it or feel comfortable. And I also think like keeping in mind that the conversation about body positivity is so like ingrained in like every other thing that we talk about. Just like bringing back intersectionality. If we talk about like just maybe microaggressions, thinking about how like body positivity can relate to that, or just thinking about like race or class and just talking about all those separate subjects, but always remembering that there is connection throughout all of them can be really important.
And I feel like dealing with, as you said, a lot of our topics can be very, very tough to talk about. They have trigger warnings. Dealing with the more difficult topics, I believe it could help dealing in a more one-on-one situation. Maybe a teacher could, so students don't feel alienated, a teacher can pull them out, every single student out individually just for 1 minute, maybe just for 2 minutes, but see if they're okay talking with those subjects and if they aren't, giving them a safe space to go.
Terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really like thoughtful response, Ellie. I appreciate that. I was thinking, Parth, you were talking about, kind of setting the stage in the classroom about whether like classroom norms or classroom agreements might be a place to explicitly say something about, um, either we don't talk about other people's bodies or just I was definitely a full grown adult the first time I was in a space where I heard someone ask, ask for consent in making a comment about someone. Like, hey, are you in a space to hear a compliment about, your appearance right now? And I was shook. Like, what what a mind-blowing thing to recognize that, even though you're meaning it as a compliment, someone else may not be in a place to receive that at the moment. Like, oh, I was not that smart in middle school. And they'll just give me so much hope. All right, I don't want to hog the floor. I definitely want to open it up for other questions.
I just want to say a comment, not a question. Yeah, I just, it's so great that you have this curriculum. Like, I just love all the work that all of you are doing. And as I was listening to you all, just like imagining how educators can use this. Yeah, I love the art activity, Allie, that story. Yeah. And I love Avery. When you talk about that, I think about when I lived in Spain and they called people gorda and like, like in the terms of affection and yeah. Anyway, yeah, thank you for this. Actually, I'm just going to say one more comment. I'm reading a book now that talks about the way that we're conditioned in society to feel about things, and it's like a form of control, right? So when we feel bad about our bodies, it just keeps us small. It's just so good. It talks about like that with many areas of our life, but it just, so I love, Avery, what you said about the affirmations, because like our brain is trained to like look at what's wrong, but that's like this control, right? So we keep buying stuff. We don't, whatever. So I just love that. Yeah, your advice on that. So that's it.
Oh yeah, the beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar machine trying to get us to buy all the diet pills and skin bleach and yeah, all the things.
I just have one note for teachers is I learned a great deal just by asking young people about the topic of body positivity. I had no idea who Chloe Ting was, but Chloe Ting, that name went up on the Jamboard and it lit up. Everybody had a comment. And then I, as an educator, had to go and look it up. I had to ask Angkor, I had to ask other people. And then I learned and then I watched it and I was like, oh my God. Right. And then it made me a better educator because I was able to, in the moment, learn what was at play in these young people's lives and how I had to be have an understanding of the world that they live in is in that it is very different than mine, because Chloe Ting does not come up on the 53-year-old woman's feed. I don't get any Chloe Ting content, right? But evidently all of you did. Every single one of you did all day long. And so I think just making the safe space to talk about body positivity and to have them, young people, tell you things makes it so you can be more responsive as an educator. But I think you can always reach the National Teen Board. If you contact me, Sally M at beyonddifferences.org, if you want a young person to come and zoom into one of your classrooms and talk about these subjects, or you want to be able to use some of these stories and want to know how to teach it, you can always reach us. And we are here to support you in that. But I am also very much aware that I have 3 young people who are in the last days of their school year and finals, and just got out of APs and have graduations and all of these things. And so I wanted to be mindful of the time that I took from them, and I've already taken more than I said I would. So Frederick, is it okay if I let them go and be the very busy young people they are?
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here with us, all of the National Teen Board members, all the educators who are in the audience with us today. We super appreciate your time and your brilliance. We dropped the link for the feedback survey in the chat one more time, so please do share your feedback with us. Again, it is anonymous and we read them all. And that's a wrap on the 2023-2024 school year, y'all. We will see you again in the fall.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, y'all.
you.
Bye-bye. Okay. Okay.